Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Shuey, the founder of Happily, the largest network of independent event specialists in the country, and your trusted place to hire virtual event teams on demand. I go live every week on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. PST right now to talk shop with an industry expert. And today, to kick off Earth Month, woohoo! Yes, happy Earth Month to everybody. I am joined by Ryanne Riley Waters. Hey,
Hi.
of the U.S. Green Building Council, which for those of you who don't know, the U.S. Green Building Council, or USGBC, is the creator and guardian of the LEED certification, which is pretty much the undisputed world leader that sets the bar for sustainable buildings. Like all of the fancy hotels and office lobbies that you go into, you're like, ooh, this is really nice. Like most of those are platinum LEED certified. Am I right, Ryanne?
I mean, I would like to say that we have about 100,000 certified projects all over the world in 176 countries. So I think that's probably a fair interpretation.
Boss, I love it. So Ryanne, who like me is a fellow Trojan and alumni of USC, Phi On. He leads the global environmental and social responsibility programs, which include, and I got to read this off because this is unbelievable that you're in charge of all this. So waste management, carbon reduction and offsetting, sustainable food and beverage, responsible sourcing, and stakeholder engagement. Woo. So Ryanne, where are you calling in from?
I am calling in from Washington, D.C. in beautiful Navy Yard in my bedroom of my apartment.
I'm here still. I'm still in LA, which is awesome because I don't know if you heard this, but LA is like one of the cities that has like the most cleanest air in the world right now, which is unbelievable. I guess, you know, everyone's staying at home and no traffic going on. So before we jump into, I have so many questions for Ryanne because Happily we're so dedicated to sustainability. It's my goal, like with our company, to create mass adoption of sustainable best practices with the network at Happily. So I am a super eco geek and just very, very excited you're here. I wanted to just show people a really quick clip of Greenbuild so that everyone has like a bit of an idea for the scale and the importance of the event that you and your team, you know, puts on. Okay.
Don't wait for direction and don't be afraid to have courageous conversations because it is our planet. It is our shared future. We have to go out and take our courage and change the world right now. One person at a time, one neighborhood at a time, one community at a time, one country at a time, one continent at a time, because we only have one Earth. And her name is Mother. Yeah, her name is Mother.
Her name is Mother. I love that you put her quote in, like, or that part. Who is that woman? Do you know that was speaking at the end?
So that was in our Women in Green lunch. And of course, her name is escaping me right now, but it will come to me at some point. But yeah, she brought the house down for sure.
I mean, I got the chills. Like I still have them actually. I'm trying to like, I don't know if I'm like rubbing them off or like hugging them like more onto me.
Let's go with the hugging. Let's go with that.
I'm down with the hugging. I think that's more accurate actually. So in your own like words, and tell us a little bit more, like what is Greenbuild and your role at USGBC?
Yeah, so I am the manager of event sustainability and programs at the U.S. Green Building Council. And as you were mentioning, Sarah, we created the LEED rating system. And what LEED is a system and a set of guidelines that help folks to understand how to build and operate buildings and communities in a more sustainable way. And what do I mean by sustainability? The way I like to describe sustainability to folks who are kind of new to it is that sustainability is ensuring the needs of today are being met while also making sure that you're not compromising the needs of tomorrow and over consuming or doing something that is going to be harmful in the future. And another way I like to put it is trying to increase the good and decrease the negative consequences of your actions and inactions. So the U.S. Green Building Council has been around for over 25 years, and we created LEED in 1998. And between now and then, LEED and green building's grown to be to $1 trillion industry, and a lot of people have heard of LEED. You ask what is green building, and you might not know exactly what it means, but it is becoming a lot more mainstream, and that's due to our commitment to transforming the market and making sure that folks are really thinking about sustainability as they're working in doing things in their daily personal and professional lives. And so I work on our conferences and events team. And as many organizations do, we use our conferences and events as a way to reach the market and provide education, connect people with one another. And as everybody watching this probably already knows, events bring people together to help solve global problems. And climate change and sustainability, social sustainability, those are all global challenges that we're trying to face, and that's kind of what Greenbuild was made to do. It was founded in 2002, before my time, and we now put the show on with our partners at Informa. And USGBC's role really with Greenbuild now is to help curate and deliver the education content, as well as as a key stakeholder in our event sustainability, because that's a key part of our mission. And then finally, I'll end with, we started expanding Greenbuild globally in 2017, and I was on the initial team that whose job it was to take those 15 years of experience with Greenbuild and our sustainability and our best practices in content delivery and creating those in-person memorable experiences and taking them global. So now we operate events in China, India, Europe, and Mexico, as well as all over the United States.
Wow. I mean, it must be so different to do events in US than from China and India. Can you talk a little bit more about what those differences are, or how, okay, first talk a little bit more about that. But before that, I just wanted to say, like, I've seen the way you measure your expos, and it's like, wow, it's like, isn't it like 20 pages, or it's something like wild? Like, how many data points do you know, like, that you're looking at when you're measuring your events for sustainability?
So in terms of data points, I can't give you an exact number for each one because they're all different, but we do have 7 sustainability objectives. And we're always trying to find data points. And one of those objectives is to improve performance measurement and data. And so we're always trying to find new or better improved ways to collect that kind of data point, because one of the mottos we have at USGBC is you can't manage what you can't measure, and you may have heard that before, but it really rings true for us, because you can, I'll just give an example. You can reduce the amount of your printed program guide by a certain number of pages, and that's great, and you can say that, but what's the impact of that, and what's the total number of pages you saved, or the total number of trees you saved, or the pounds of wood that you saved? So really kind of thinking and diving into that a little deeper. And we rely a lot on our venues and our hotels to give us their building performance data, because obviously we don't own and operate or manage any of those venues. So we rely very heavily on them. And fortunately, because as I mentioned, sustainability is becoming a lot more mainstream, a lot of major hotel brands, a lot of convention centers are already kind of used to getting those questions now, so they won't look at you like you have your head on sideways if you start asking for that kind of information.
Mm-hmm. Is that true in other countries as well?
It depends. So in Europe, they're very advanced. Sustainability has been kind of ingrained into their culture for a lot longer than it has most other places in the world. But you go to a place like India or Mexico or China, and it's not that they don't know what sustainability is, but for example, in India, we just had our event in February, and we did kind of a focus group with one of our new campaigns, Living Standard campaign, and their idea of sustainability, they understand that it's an issue, but they don't really understand their part in it, and they don't see how individual actions and how it affects them. So in many cases in India, they will have air filters in their house, but they won't understand how, the tons of driving and different kind of industry that's happening in India is contributing to that and making it so that they have to buy those air filters in their house.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit of a disconnect there, as well as just different cultural expectations. In India, they are some of the most hardworking people that I know, and they will do anything to please you, but you have to stay on them and make sure that they truly understand, this is what I mean by the information that I'm looking for, because some of it just gets lost in translation and they don't understand. Like one time we asked, oh, where are you sourcing your food and beverage from? And they kind of looked at me and they were like, from the stand down the street. And I was like, oh, okay, well, where are they getting it from? They're like, we don't know. And those are the kinds of questions you're used to being able to ask somebody in the US. And that just seems like a very common question if you're looking for locally sourced food and beverage.
Mm-hmm. So how do you like structure a program? I mean, and USGBC and LEAD, I mean, your reputation is like really based on like setting that and holding to that bar, that standard of excellence. So how do you navigate through like building a program, that helps you do that with your partners?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's fortunately for us, we work with our partner organization, GBCI, which is our certification arm, and they have offices all over the world. So anywhere that we are trying to have a new event in a new place, we will lean very heavily on the local folks that are there to help us navigate those cultural differences and cultural definitions and expectations, and really understanding what needs to happen. And fortunately, because we work in green building, they know, and they've been through that and they've experienced it before. And that might not be the case for your organization, that you might not have staff on the ground there who know everything there is to know about sustainability, and that's fine. But what you can do is put together a team of really trusted folks. We have a program working group in every single one of our markets that is built of folks that are in our industry, which is green building. But if you're in a different industry, it can be of your industry, and really understanding just the general environment there. And then I think the other thing that we've leaned on, in addition to making sure that we're really localizing everything and not just coming in and deciding this is how it's going to be done, but really working with the folks that are there on the ground. The other thing is, we are fortunate that we have had 15 years of experience and understand these kind of core concepts. And so that's kind of the approach that we've taken whenever there's something that folks don't understand. And some basic concepts that I have talked about is really thinking about whatever input is going into your event. Where does it come from? How is it made? How am I using it? Is there an alternative? Can I reuse something instead? And what's going to happen to it when it's done? And I think everybody can kind of understand that to an extent. And so really having the conversation in that sort of lens is usually very helpful. And the stakeholder engagement piece is really important too. And that's a lot of where our volunteer advisory groups and advisory boards come in, to not just understand, but really talk to them about what's going to resonate. You can't just go into a market and expect them to do whatever you want to do.
How big are these advisory groups? And I mean, that's awesome that you get volunteers. Like, how do you how do you meet with them? How do you collaborate with those folks? And how do you know whether or not like they're people that you can trust with your brand, essentially?
Yeah, so we have an open application, and they have to submit a certain number or a certain things like their bio, resume, any kind of certifications they have, what they do. And we look through that, evaluate that, work with our staff on the ground. A lot of them are folks that we've worked with, are members of USGBC. So a lot of them we have worked with in the past, and those that we haven't, we can kind of evaluate them and their expertise and understanding of green building and what we can deliver to the market. And the advisory groups are usually around 11 to 15 people in every market that we have. We don't want it to be too big, but obviously we want to have a wide variety of perspectives.
And how often do they meet? And like, are there specific roles or responsibilities like of individual members within the group?
Yeah, so what we have focused on mostly is our program working groups. And so part of what I do is, in addition to the sustainability hat, I also wear a education content development hat. And so we've leaned a lot on our program working groups to understand the market. And for us, it's fortunate that we have the content that we're delivering is about sustainability. So that obviously feeds into the sustainability strategy of the show. But for folks who don't have that, it can still be discussed, and folks can still kind of help you understand what are the pressing needs of the market. And you can always apply that to things that are about sustainability. And sustainability is not just environmental sustainability, it's social sustainability and financial sustainability as well. We always talk about kind of the 3 pillars of people, planet, and profit. Mm-hmm. So it's not just about ensuring that everything is green, but also what other kind of societal effects can we kind of help to affect?
Yeah, I mean, even while I was putting together our sustainability pledge at Happily for us, it's touching on those 3 things, and it's reducing. We have our 3 R's. So there's, the 3 R's of recycling, reduce, reuse, recycle, right? And for us, it's reducing waste, representing diverse voices, and reinvesting in local economies. So we're always hitting those 3 things, and we consider that, as sustainability. I mean, maybe we can touch really quick on just that reduce, reuse, recycle mentality. And then let's dive a little bit deeper into social and economic, if you don't mind. But can you tell us a little bit more, like when we see like this recycle symbol, right? Like what should we really thinking about when we're looking at that?
Well, so I think many people have probably seen this, that recycling in the United States right now is going through a transition phase. A lot of what you think you might know about recycling is that you take something that has a recycling symbol on it, or might, it's plastic or it's cardboard, or I think this is recyclable, and you'll throw it in the recycling bin hoping that, someone will take care of it. And unfortunately, that is something that is called wish cycling. Just kind of
cycling. I've never heard that.
Yeah, wish cycling is definitely a thing in the United States, and that's part of the reason that China has stopped accepting recycling from other countries, because there are a lot of things that go into the recycling stream that aren't recyclable, and there are things like plastic bags from the grocery store that really shouldn't go in the recycling stream, because although it's made of plastic, it really gets into the machinery and kind of gets tangled up in there and can cause a lot of health and safety issues for the workers who have to then go in and try to fix it or unjam it.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times they'll just throw it away and put it in the landfill. I'm not the resident expert in waste. We have a whole team called our True team, our True Zero Waste certification at USGBC. And if you guys want to learn all about waste, you can definitely check them out.
Cool. That's awesome. What do you think that has been the biggest accomplishment that you've all made, and that you've made with building this program?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of give you a cheater answer and say that the accomplishment that I personally am most proud of is just creating that framework of our event sustainability process and the practices that we use for all of our global and regional events. It's been really rewarding.
Yeah.
A lot of sustainability, and this goes back to kind of the reason that we have to be sustainable, is that from a brand perspective, we have to ensure that when we create our global playbook, that we kind of refer back to. And a lot of times events will be like, all right, go back to the process and rinse and repeat and do it over again. We had to make sure that it was just exactly that, a framework that you can refer back to and really understand and change it and adapt it for the market that you're in, but still have those core concepts. Because for us, we need to be able to walk the walk and embody our mission to transform the way buildings are built and operated for a more sustainable future. And that's just how we can represent our stakeholders' value, establish legitimacy in the market, and retain customers really is another piece of it as well. But to answer more specifically about the greatest accomplishment, is having this framework has been so helpful because it's really just something that you can plug into your current process, where you start out by making your goals. I think this is a process that everybody in event planning and project management can understand. Is you start off by reviewing your objectives, setting your goals, then you do your stakeholder engagement, make sure that everybody who's involved can actually accomplish and understand what you're going for, so that they excuse me, you can really understand and accomplish what you're going for, so that there's not any surprises down the line. Then you implement, and then you're on site, and then you evaluate, and then you start over again.
Yeah. And how are you measuring the social aspect and social impact, as well as the economic impact? And how are you thinking about economics actually when you're talking about sustainability?
Yeah, I think the economic piece is really important, because I think there's tons of research out there about the economic impact of an event on the host community, and just bringing that extra business, and measuring that can be kind of difficult. An example that I have from a recent event that we just did in Portland, Oregon, was we partnered with a initiative that our hotel that we were working with was already doing, where they would put on a run, and for every mile that every participant ran, they would donate $1 to Girls Inc., which is a nonprofit that helps to provide leadership training for women and girls. And the way we were able to measure that is how many people participated. It was a 3-mile run, and by the end of it, this was one of our 600-person events, and we were able to raise, I think, about $300 for that. So that was something that's easy to measure. Something else that can be harder to measure, that you can also measure, is any local labor or local businesses that you are working with, and ordering supplies from, and really kind of putting that into dollars and cents, as well as numbers of the amount of businesses, the amount of things that you've ordered, the amount of items or pounds of leftover material that you've donated to the community, anything like that.
Cool. That's awesome. Okay, so we've got about 5 more minutes, and I thought I would shift gears. So I like to try to end with like a little bit of a game, and so I have a game that I think plays very well to your strengths, but we shall see. And what I did is I just pulled 3 different items that I think are commonly seen at events that I hear are like green or making the attempt to be green. And I wanted to do a little pop quiz and ask you, how green is this thing? I wish I had like a like music.
I know, I feel like you need like a graphic.
Yeah, how green is this thing? Instead of you just get the wavy hands. So I'm going to show you the first thing, and then if you have any comments to explain to us like how green it is, would love to hear those.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing we have here is bamboo disposable, compostable bamboo plates.
Yeah. So one of the kind of things that we normally do that's just kind of second nature to us is we don't have any sort of disposable serviceware if we can avoid it. And anytime it's disposable, we want to make sure that it is compostable. So bamboo plates, check that box. That is something that is compostable in most streams. However, you still have to think about where did that bamboo come from and how far did it fly to get here and get produced. So sorry that that's not like a total black and white answer of is it green or is it not green, but that's just, one of those core concepts of really thinking about where it came from and not just where it's going to end up.
So like where, for example, like if we're having an event if you're having an event in DC, like where would bamboo come from that's sort of where it becomes not green anymore?
So a lot of bamboo comes from China, but there are a lot of bamboo farms in like southern United States that you could ship it from. So I have a little bit of a hierarchy of best to worst from content, and the best would be domestically sourced, recycled or reused content. So if it was reused and produced in the United States, that's the best option. And then from there, it kind of goes domestic and organic, domestic and what we call virgin material. So like brand new, has to be created from scratch or harvested from new material. And then it kind of starts over from internationally sourced recycled material, internationally sourced organic material. And then the very last is internationally sourced virgin material. And then one caveat being with international is that it kind of depends. If you're in Michigan, getting something from Canada might be more sustainable than getting it from California. So it's really more of a distance thing.
Yeah. I'm so glad that we videotape or recording this, because I'm like going to go back and like feverishly like write down, like that was such a great categorization or prioritization of the categories. I love it. Okay. Vinyl banners. I see this all the time.
Yes.
Green or not green?
I would say not green. And again, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a thing to think about and chew on, is that vinyl, USGBC hasn't been using vinyl, I think, since like 2009 or maybe even earlier than that. And that's because of the fact that the way that it's produced is very harmful in terms of the health and safety of the workers who have to create it. Vinyl,
so examples like the social piece of things.
Exactly. So like really thinking about how is it made? What am I using it for? Where is it going? And this kind of fits into that category of like, yeah, you can recycle vinyl or you can upcycle it into, different types of like clings or banners or whatever, what have you. However, the way that it's made and produced is so harmful that you really don't want to be creating new. If you have vinyl already and you can reuse it, great. Reuse is so much better than starting from scratch. And if you want to use more of a like fabric substrate that's made from recycled content, that's also great. And then really thinking about that reuse and reduction before you're thinking about making sure that it's recyclable.
Right. Okay, so not green. And last one, like group shuttles and transportation here. Green, or how green is it?
So it depends. Again, there's a lot of times there's no simple answer when it comes to sustainability. It's for shuttles, if you can reduce them where you can, that's great. Our partners at Informa have eliminated shuttles that go between like your hotel and the convention center, because a lot of times we're already looking at hotels that are within walking distance or very short, like public transportation to the hotel. However, there's always like offsite tours or offsite workshops or what have you that requires you to take a group of people offsite. And so if that's the case, if you can find a shuttle vendor that can use a more sustainable fuel source, or if you can afford to offset the emissions from that transportation, then you can consider it a green choice, because obviously it's more green to put a lot of people on one vehicle than have them all drive individually or get in Ubers individually.
And I think, and I think actually, like, to the point of like how much it costs, a lot of, you can budget for it, and it's not as expensive, I think, as people, maybe assume if they've never done it before. When we were offsetting costs for a program for TikTok, like, it was all US, but like flights plus also our shuttles was like $7 a person, something like that. Yeah. So it's a pretty easy thing to, I think, prepare for. And I think something that especially now, millennial and Gen Z audiences in particular, it doesn't even have to be just like super eco audiences, like just overall, your audiences are demanding that or expecting that. It's part of like what a premium and a luxury and a thoughtful event actually requires these days. So.
Yeah, and you don't have to be an expert in sustainability to get started. A lot of times people are really intimidated or they're nervous, they don't know where to start. And what I always tell them is you just start with small bites. Yeah. And, as I was saying earlier, relate it back to your core mission. If you're working for a healthcare organization, or if you're working for an entertainment industry event, or if you're working for a nonprofit that fights hunger and homelessness, there's always some sort of social or environmental or both initiative that you can start thinking about, and just start there and then build on it. USGBC and Greenbuild didn't used to be as robust as it is. We've been around for over 20 years, so it took time. And I think now is definitely the time to start thinking about it.
Yeah, well, it's really great advice, and I really appreciate like the very like positive and encouraging approach and perspective and those words that you shared. Now, I mean, in the beginning, like when I was in the really hardcore like eco space in 2007, I was started to really do sustainable events, and some people would get really aggressive about like that's greenwashing and like the green shaming, and so I really appreciate the gentle encouragement for everyone to start somewhere. I think it's really, really great. It's been so wonderful to have you with me today. Thank you so much, Ryanne.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you don't have to be an expert in sustainability. There are already experts out there. I always encourage people to go look at what USGBC is doing, look at the EPA, look at the UN, look at these established experts in the field, and don't create your own standards or definitions. That is what will get you into greenwashing. So that's going to be my last piece of advice for this.
Yes, totally. Well, I will, be sure in happily.io/learning, where we'll have the archive. I'm going to give a link to the 2019 like sustainability report that y'all do, so that everyone can sort of see what that standard looks like. And again, thank you so much. Hopefully we can have you again next time.
Yeah, I'd love to come back.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It was really great to have you. I hope that what Ryanne and I shared today inspired you to really think a little bit more deeply about your events once we get back, like in real life. Let's do events that are more sustainable and more green. Next week, I'm going to be talking with Mirta Gilson, who is a longtime friend of mine, actually, and she works for LTN Global, which is a pretty amazing, very powerful webcasting service that, and she's going to share some tips and tricks and ideas about sort of how to actually like collaborate and work with your team and how to think about producing really large, multi-stream cast virtual events and how to do that right. So that is it for now. I will see you next week, and thanks again.